My name is Peyton. Standing in this meeting room, I'm looking at the pale face of Ryan, my former manager. Just moments ago, he announced a set of new rules he thought would push me out of the company. But little did he know, I was the one who approved these rules, and I had a little surprise up my sleeve. As I stand up and walk towards the front of the room, I can feel everyone's eyes on me. Ryan looks annoyed, probably expecting me to argue or make a scene. Ryan, I say, my voice steadier than I feel, can I ask you something? Did anyone actually read who approved this? He blinks, clearly caught off guard. What? You. I continue walking slowly, wanting everyone to see the approval signature on the projection. Did you look at it? He glances at the wall, then back at me. It went through the proper process. That is all that matters. Show the signature page, I demand. He hesitates, clearly uncomfortable. That is not. Show it, I repeat firmly. Someone in the room clicks through to the last page, and there, clear as day, is my name. That is my signature, I say. I approve this because it came through the National Policy Committee, which I serve on. The room falls silent. You could hear a pin drop. And if anyone had actually read the final version, you would have seen the exception clause. Let me read it for you. I read it out loud, every word, making sure everyone understands. The rules apply to everyone except officers on the National Policy Committee, that's me. Ryan's face turns from confused to pale in an instant. I continue, these rules take effect in 2 weeks, and according to the approval process, they cannot be changed for at least 2 years unless there is a legal violation. I made sure of that. As I look around the room, I see the shock and disbelief on everyone's faces. I realize that this moment is a turning point, not just for me, but for the entire company. Let me take you back to how I got here. I've been working at Zenith Enterprises for 11 long years. I grew up in a small town where my parents, hard-working and honest, instilled in me the values of integrity and hard work. My father was a mechanic, and he always said, do the job right, or don't do it at all. My mother was a school teacher, and she taught me the importance of following the rules and standing up for what's right. I joined Zenith Enterprises as a young, eager-to-learn employee. Over the years, I worked my way up to become a senior officer in the compliance division. Our job was to double-check everything, make sure all the rules were followed. It wasn't a popular division because we often asked uncomfortable questions and said no when others wanted to say yes. But I believed in what we did, because in our line of work, if things went wrong, people's lives could be severely affected. Jobs could be lost, families could struggle, all because someone decided to take shortcuts. For 11 years, I thought my hard work and dedication would be recognized. But about 5 months ago, things started to change. Ryan, my manager for the past 4 years, began to act differently towards me. He stopped including me in certain conversations and meetings. When I asked about it, he would give me vague answers like, oh, we handled it already, or nothing you need to worry about. Then, my coworkers also started to treat me differently. I had worked with some of them for years, and we used to have friendly chats during breaks. But slowly, that stopped. They would lower their voices when I walked by and turn away when I looked at them. I tried to convince myself that I was just being sensitive, that maybe I was tired. But then, the promotion that should have been mine went to someone else, Jake. Jake had been at the company for 3 years. He was a nice guy, but he didn't have the experience I had. Everyone, including Jake himself, knew that I was next in line for the lead position. I had been training new employees, handling difficult situations, and fixing problems that no one else wanted to deal with for 2 years. I went to Ryan to ask what I could do better next time. He leaned back in his chair and looked at me as if I had asked something ridiculous. You're good at the work, sure, but you're not really a team player. Team player? What do you mean? I was shocked. You push back too much. You make things difficult when they don't need to be. People are trying to get things done, And you're always finding problems, he said. I stared at him. That's literally my job. I'm supposed to find problems before they become bigger problems. He shrugged. There's a way to do it without slowing everything down. What he really meant was for me to stop pointing out mistakes and stop making others uncomfortable. It all started when, about 5 months ago, Ryan and a few others came to me with a proposal. They wanted to change how we processed certain approvals, cut some steps to speed things up. I read through the proposal and knew immediately that it wouldn't work legally. If anyone checked later and something went wrong, it would come back on all of us. Ryan was annoyed. He tried to push it, saying, nobody is going to check. This is just to make things more efficient. Until someone does check, then what? I retorted. You worry too much, he said. That's my job, I replied firmly. He didn't like that. None of them did, but they couldn't force me to approve it. So, they went around me and found ways to do what they wanted without my signature. And when I noticed and brought it up, suddenly, I became the problem, not the people breaking the rules. That's when I stopped being part of the team. Fast forward to 3 months ago. The owners of Zenith Enterprises were looking for people to serve on a special national-level committee. This committee was responsible for reviewing and approving every major policy for the entire organization, from hiring and firing to pay structures. They wanted someone who actually understood how things worked, not just someone who knew how to play politics. They wanted someone who could catch problems before they became disasters. And they asked me. It was supposed to be a quiet appointment, no big announcement. They didn't want others to use me to push their own agendas. So, I said yes, signed the paperwork, and continued with my regular job. Only a handful of top-level people knew about it, and Ryan was definitely not one of them. 2 months ago, Ryan's group put together a proposal for new rules. They thought these rules would get rid of me. They submitted it through the proper channels, assuming it would be rubber-stamped. But it landed on my desk. I read every word and saw exactly what they were up to. I spent 3 days rewriting it. I kept the same structure, titles, and official language, but I changed who it applied to. Every single rule now had an exception for officers currently serving on the National Policy Committee. Again, that's me. I also made sure the rules couldn't be changed back easily. They never read the final version. They just saw that their proposal had been accepted and celebrated. Now, here we are, in this meeting room, with Ryan announcing the rules he thought would destroy me. After I revealed the truth in the meeting, the next 2 weeks were really strange. People avoided me even more than before, but this time it was out of fear. Ryan didn't say a word to me. I saw him in the hallway a few times, and he would turn around and go the other way. Once, I saw him waiting for the elevator. When the doors opened and he saw me inside, he just walked away, saying he forgot something and took the stairs instead. Jake, the one who got my promotion, came to my workspace 3 days after the meeting. He stood there for a while before saying, I didn't know. I looked up from my work. Didn't know what? About the committee, about what they were trying to do, he said. I believed him. I knew Jake wasn't smart enough to be part of Ryan's plan. He just took the promotion that was offered to him. Okay, I said. He shifted uncomfortably. I'm sorry. For taking the promotion? You didn't turn it down. Nobody would, I replied. Are you going to? I mean, with the new rules? He asked nervously. Am I going to come after you? No, you didn't create this mess. You just accepted what was offered, I said. He nodded, looking relieved, and then left. But Ryan's group was in a panic. There were 5 of them in total, Ryan, of course, then Lisa from operations, Mark from finance, Sue who handled client relations, and Tom, another manager from a different floor. They had all pushed for the new rules, thinking it would get rid of me and make their lives easier. Now, those rules were going to hit them hard. The mandatory additional hours hit first. Lisa was the first to break. She had 2 small children, and her whole life was centered around leaving work at 5 p.m. to pick them up from daycare. The new rules meant she had to stay at least 3 extra hours 4 days a week. She tried to find a workaround, asking if she could come in earlier or work from home, but the rules said no. The additional hours had to be on site at the end of the day, with no exceptions except for me. I watched as she got more and more exhausted. She started showing up looking like she hadn't slept. Her work became sloppy, and she started missing deadlines. After 2 weeks, she quit. She came in one morning, said she couldn't do it anymore, and left. Next was Mark. The evaluation reviews every 14 days destroyed him. Mark was the kind of person who looked good on paper but didn't actually do much. He was great at talking in meetings and making it seem like he was busy and important, but when you looked at his actual work, it was shallow. The reviews exposed his inefficiency. Every 2 weeks, someone would sit down with him and go through everything he was supposed to have done. The list of problems kept getting longer. He tried to argue, saying the reviews were too frequent and too harsh. He appealed to Ryan, but Ryan couldn't do anything because the rules were locked in. He went above Ryan, but everyone higher up just shrugged. The rules were properly approved, and there was nothing they could do. After 6 reviews, Mark was put on a performance plan, which is usually a step before getting fired. He saw the writing on the wall and found another job, leaving the company within a month. Sue and Tom both got hit with the relocation requirement at the same time. Sue was supposed to move 4 hours away, and Tom had to move 5 hours away. Sue had just bought a house 6 months earlier. She and her husband had saved for years to find the perfect place. Now, she had to either pack up and move or lose her job. She fought it, saying it was unreasonable and unfair, but the rules were clear. The company could relocate anyone if there was a business need. Her husband couldn't just pick up and leave. He had his own job and his own life. They had some serious arguments about it. In the end, Sue took a demotion at a local organization. It meant less pay and less responsibility, but at least she could stay in her house. Tom actually took the relocation. He left his whole life behind and moved to the other city. But after 3 months, he couldn't take it anymore. Being away from his family, living in a place where he didn't know anyone, and doing the same work in complete isolation was too much for him. He came back and took a lower-level position somewhere else. That left only Ryan. He held on longer than I thought he would. Maybe he was too proud to quit, or maybe he thought he could find a way out. But he couldn't. The additional hours wore him down. He was used to leaving early, playing games on his phone, and taking long breaks. Now, he had to actually be present and work. It was killing him. The evaluation reviews were even worse. When you really looked at what Ryan did all day, it wasn't much. He was good at delegating and taking credit for other people's work, but his own work was almost non-existent. Every 2 weeks, someone would tear apart his performance, and he had less and less to hide behind. 3 months after the rules took effect, Ryan was put on a performance plan, just like Mark. He knew what it meant and quit a week later. I heard he got a job that was a step down, with less authority and less pay. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't celebrate. I just kept doing my work. People started treating me differently. There was a new sense of caution around me. Some of the new people who joined the company didn't know the whole story, just bits and pieces. They were told I was the one who approved policies and not to cross me, so they kept their distance. Jake started asking me work-related questions again. I helped him, not because I liked him, but because the work was more important than my personal feelings. 6 months after the whole ordeal, the owners called me in for a meeting. I thought I might be in trouble, maybe I had pushed too hard. But I was wrong. They wanted to expand my role on the national committee, giving me more authority. They said I had good judgment and that I knew how to protect the organization without playing politics. I said yes. A year after the meeting where Ryan announced the rules, I was asked to take over his old position. I almost said no. I didn't want to deal with the politics and the people management that came with being a manager. But then I thought about who they might bring in instead, someone like Ryan, who would cut corners and punish anyone who questioned them. So, I said yes. On my first day as a manager, I called a meeting with everyone in the division. I stood at the front and looked at them. Some were familiar faces, and some were new. I'm not going to give you a big speech about how things will be different. I'm just going to tell you what I expect. Do your work. Do it right. If you don't know how to do something, ask. If you see a problem, say something. If you make a mistake, own it and fix it. I don't care if you like me or if we become friends. I care that when someone looks at what we do here, they see work that was done right, I said. A young guy raised his hand and asked, "What happens if we disagree with you?" Good question. Then you tell me. Bring me your reasons. Show me why you think I'm wrong. If you're right, I'll listen. If you're wrong, I'll explain why, but you don't go around me. You come to me directly, I replied. He nodded, and then I dismissed the meeting. The first month as a manager was tougher than I expected. It wasn't the work itself, I knew the work well. It was dealing with the people. Some of them were waiting for me to fail. I could see it in the way they watched me, waiting for a mistake so they could say, "I told you so." Others were too eager to please and would agree with everything I said, even when I was clearly asking for their opinion. There was one person, Mia, who was different. She had been hired about 8 months before all the chaos with Ryan started. She was quiet, kept to herself, did her work, and went home. About 3 weeks after I took over, she came to my workspace. "You have a minute?" she asked. "Sure," I said. She sat down and didn't waste any time on small talk. The process for approving vendor contracts doesn't make sense. We're double-checking things that have already been verified. Then we send it to another department that checks the same things again. It takes twice as long as it should, and nobody catches anything new because we're all looking at the same information, she said. I leaned back. What would you change? She had a whole plan, which she had thought through and tested on a few smaller contracts. It worked. Do it, I said. She looked shocked. Just like that? I thought I'd have to submit a proposal, get approval from multiple people, and wait months. You saw a problem, found a solution, and tested it. What else do you need? If it goes wrong, we'll fix it. If it works, we'll roll it out to everything else, I replied. 3 weeks later, her new process was cutting approval time in half, with no mistakes. Word got around, and other people started coming to me with ideas. I said yes to the ones that made sense and no to the ones that didn't, always explaining why. Slowly, things started to change. People stopped waiting for permission to think and started bringing solutions instead of just complaints. Work got done faster and better. But not everyone was happy about it. There was a manager on a different floor, Greg. He had been at the company longer than me, longer than almost anyone. He didn't like that I had been promoted, and he started pushing back on things. He questioned decisions I made and told people in his department to ignore new processes I put in place. I let it go for a while, thinking he would get tired of fighting over nothing. But he didn't. It came to a head during a meeting with several department heads. We were discussing how to handle a client who was upset about delays. I explained what had caused the delay and what we were doing to fix it. Greg interrupted and said, maybe if certain people focused more on their actual job instead of trying to change everything, we wouldn't have these problems. The room went quiet. I looked at him and asked, you think the delay was caused by process changes? I think people are distracted. The delay was caused by a vendor missing a deadline. That has nothing to do with internal processes, he replied. Still, maybe if you spent less time playing around with how we do things and more time making sure the basics get done, he continued. Playing around? Like improving how we work is some kind of hobby, I said, but then I calmed down. Instead of arguing, I said, you might be right. For the next month, your department doesn't have to follow any of the new processes. Keep doing everything exactly how you